Hello. This time we will give a lecture on the Information and Communication Terminology Dictionary for the first half of 2020. This video was produced based on the Information and Communication Glossary. Analog beamforming. The synonym is called analog beamforming, and it is a beamforming method that controls the amplitude and phase of signals transmitted and received through the array antenna at their stage. This technology is a technology that modulates the amplitude and phase of the signal transmitted and received through to each antenna in a state in which several antenna patterns are overlapped in the form of an array of antennas so that transmission and reception are strong in a specific direction and weakly in the other direction. In other words, the signals transmitted and received from multiple antennas act like a single antenna, like a beam in a specific direction, and transmit and receive signals strongly. Beamforming. The synonym is called beamforming, and beamforming is also mentioned in analog beamforming. Beamforming can be applied to both transmission and reception, so there are transmission and reception beamforming, and there are analog beamforming, digital beamforming, and hybrid beamforming. This beamforming technology has been researched and developed since the second generation mobile communication under the concept of a smart antenna, and is one of the technologies attracting attention in the fifth generation mobile communication. The reason is that in the fifth generation mobile communication, when using a high frequency band such as a millimeter wave band, the cell coverage is much smaller than when using the existing low frequency band, whereas the wavelength of the radio wave is smaller, so the antenna size and separation distance between the antennas. This is because many antennas can be placed in the same area at a high density by making them smaller. Therefore, by making many antennas into a two-dimensional array and applying beamforming technology, you can increase coverage and improve transmission speed. Supplementary uplink is an uplink to compensate for when the uplink has insufficient coverage compared to the downlink, and even if the uplink cell size is insufficient, coverage can be secured as much as the downlink. There is also a savings effect. Unlike the fourth generation mobile communication, the fifth generation mobile communication additionally uses a high frequency band of 6 to 52 points and 6 GHz, and the path loss of a general radio wave increases in proportion to the square of the frequency. But the same transmission power when used, cell coverage decreases significantly as the frequency increases. Also remember that it is different from the traditional carrier bundle. Next generation ran ultra-new radio dual connectivity. The advanced universal terrestrial wireless access technology, new radio dual connection, allows 4 stations to control and process as master base stations. 5th mobile communication base stations improve transmission speed and connects to base station to 5th core, the core network of 5th mobile communication. It stands for dual connection technology. In each new radio dual connection, the core network is engineering, procurement, and construction, but in next generation wireless access network, each new radio dual connection is 5th generation core. In general, in dual connectivity, a base station that provides microcell coverage becomes a master base station and processes both the control plane and the user plane, and other base stations with small cell coverage are sometimes called secondary base stations, which are secondary base stations that process only the user plane. In other words, the master base station handles control signaling, and the secondary base station is used to improve the data rate. Therefore, this technology is useful in the case of additional use of high-speed data transmission of 5th generation base stations, using high-frequency bands based on the stable coverage of 4th generation, using low-frequency bands when 5th generation core operates stably in 5th generation networks. Is similar to ultra-new radio dual connectivity, but differs from ultra-new radio dual connectivity in that both long-term evolution and 5th generation base stations are connected to the 5th generation core network, 5th generation core, but in ultra-new radio Dual connectivity, both long-term evolution and fifth base stations are connected to the long-term evolution core network. Engineering, procurement, and construction. New radio ultra dual connectivity. This is an explanation of the advanced universal terrestrial wireless access technology dual connection. The description of the technology has been described immediately above, so please refer to it. It is important to remember that new radio ultra dual connectivity is an additional database station based on the stable control, function, and coverage of the 5th generation mobile communication system at the stage when the generation mobile communication network is stably established. It can be used to increase speed, and this technology shines when the 5th generation mobile communication system is in the network maturity stage.